The laughter hit harder than the thunder outside. Maya Robinson sat frozen at the long mahogany table while the lawyer's voice trembled through the final lines of her father's will. The mansion on Hill Road to the sons of the first marriage. And to my daughter, Maya Robinson, the old barn on Maple Valley Farm. A pause. Then Snickers, that rotting thing, one brother muttered. Guess she can start a petting zoo, another chuckled. Their mother smiled without warmth. Your father was always sentimental, dear. He knew you liked dirt. Maya's knuckles whitened around her handbag strap. The same people who'd called her charity case at family gatherings were now celebrating her humiliation. Her father's photograph stared down from the mantel. Gentle eyes. That half smile that always said, I trust you to understand later. But understanding felt a million miles away. Outside, rain hammered the windows like it was applauding their cruelty. She rose quietly, folded the deed in her pocket, and walked out. No goodbyes. No defense. Only the sound of her heels and their laughter chasing her down the hall. Before we go any further into Maya's journey, if stories of hope and justice move you like they move us, please tap that like button and subscribe. Your support doesn't just grow this channel. It keeps these true inspired voices alive. Thank you from the heart. Now back to Maya. The drive to Maple Valley was long, wet, and silent. Windshield wipers beat like a metronome for thoughts she couldn't stop. Her father's voice echoed in memory. Everything I build with roots, not walls. Was this his lesson? Was the barn a punishment or a test? The headlights finally cut through fog and landed on the shape ahead. The barn. Crooked roof, splintered door, ivy gripping its sides like a memory that refused to die. She stepped out, rain soaking her jacket, mud grabbing her boots. The air smelled of wet hay and rust and something older, something watching. The padlock was stiff, but the key her father had left on his desk still fit. It clicked open with a sound that felt like a heartbeat. The door creaked wide, and the darkness inside breathed out at her. Cobwebs hung like lace curtains. Dust floated in slanted light. On one wall, her father's old workbench waited. Wrenches, nails, and a coffee mug still stained brown. Maya touched it, half expecting it to be warm. "This is what you left me, Dad?" she murmured, voice barely a breath. No answer. Only rain on the roof. She found a broom in the corner and started to sweep. Each stroke stirred up dust and memories. Her childhood laughter seemed to echo back through the rafters. It hurt and healed all at once. Then the broom struck something hard beneath the floorboards. A hollow sound that didn't belong. She froze, knelt, tapped again. The echo was real. She pressed her ear to the plank. A low, empty beat thudded from below, as if the barn itself had a heart. Maya looked up, rain dripping through a hole in the roof, light falling across her face. "Okay, Dad," she whispered, half-smile through tears. "What did you hide from them? And leave for me?" Her hand tightened around the broom handle. The story of the broken barn was just beginning. The hollow echo wouldn't stop ringing. Maya knelt on the cold wooden floor, palm pressed flat over the spot where her broom had struck. Beneath the dust and splinters it thudded again, faint, metallic, deliberate. She brushed away the debris with shaking hands. The floorboard looked ordinary, but when she pressed harder, it gave slightly, groaning as if something beneath had been waiting years to breathe. Her pulse quickened. She grabbed a screwdriver from the old workbench, its handle still stained with her father's fingerprints. "All right, Dad," she whispered. "Let's see what secret you buried under here." The board lifted with a sigh. Beneath it lay darkness, a small square opening framed by dirt and time. She shone her phone's flashlight inside. Cobwebs shimmered like silk threads in the beam, and down below, a faint gleam of brass caught the light. A box. Dust drifted like smoke as she reached in and pulled it out. The lid creaked open to reveal an oilcloth bundle tied neatly with a leather cord. Inside was a key, a folded note, and an old photograph. Her father in front of the same barn, holding her as a little girl. On the back of the photo, in his familiar scrawl, "For when they try to make you small." Dad, her throat closed. The key glimmered softly, engraved with 2 letters. RR. Before she could think, her phone buzzed on the ground. A message from an unknown number. "You really think he left you something worth keeping? Let it go, Maya, no name." Just that. She looked toward the window. The rain had stopped, but shadows lingered outside, long and still. She felt the weight of every mocking laugh from the will-reading crash back into her chest. She slipped the key into her pocket and rose slowly. "No," she said quietly. "Not this time." The air in the barn shifted. A beam of sunlight broke through a hole in the roof, landing exactly where she had found the box, as if her father himself was pointing. She followed the light to the back wall. There, behind a stack of hay bales, was a wooden panel slightly misaligned with the rest. She tugged. It moved an inch, releasing the smell of oil and dust. Something else hid back there. Her fingers trembled as she peeled it open, revealing a faded trapdoor handle bolted into the floor. Her breath caught. The same echo from before seemed to answer. The barn wasn't just old. It was alive. Maya sat back on her heels, the light now painting gold streaks across her face. "You left me more than a barn, didn't you, Dad?" she whispered. Outside, the clouds began to break, sunlight washing over the valley like a quiet promise. The next morning, she'd return with gloves, tools, and courage. Because whatever waited beneath that floor, it wasn't just her father's secret. It was her inheritance. Morning came quietly, with light spilling through thin mist over Maple Valley. The barn looked almost peaceful now, washed clean by rain, framed in gold. But Maya's heart pounded as if she were heading into battle. She slipped on gloves, grabbed a crowbar, and walked toward the back wall where the warped panel waited. The memory of her father's handwriting, "For when they try to make you small," echoed like a heartbeat in her chest. The trapdoor handle was rusted, nearly fused to the wood. She wedged the crowbar beneath it and pushed hard. The metal shrieked, dust raining down in tiny storms. One last shove, and the hatch gave way. A puff of cold, stale air brushed her face. Beneath it, wooden steps disappeared into blackness. She aimed her flashlight down. The beam revealed dirt walls braced with old timber. The air smelled of oil, soil, and something faintly metallic, like machinery left too long in silence. "Okay, Dad," she murmured, voice trembling between fear and wonder. "What were you hiding under here?" Each step groaned as she descended. Her boots sank slightly in the packed earth. The deeper she went, the colder it grew. Not empty cold, but purposeful, like a vault keeping its promise. At the bottom, the narrow passage opened into a small room lined with shelves. Her light caught on rows of metal boxes stacked neatly, each one labeled in her father's careful script: invoices, equipment, maps, and one in the far corner, newer, cleaner, marked only with a single word: Maya. Her breath hitched. She crouched and ran her fingers over the letters. The lid opened with a soft click. Inside was a folder tied with twine, a flash drive sealed in plastic, and another note. "If you're reading this, you found what they never should. Everything in this room belongs to you. They wanted my company, but the real wealth, the heart of it, lives here." Maya flipped open the folder. Inside were land deeds, acres upon acres of farmland under her father's name, untouched and undeclared in any of the estate files. Each deed had one thing in common: her signature printed beside his, notarized years ago when she was too young to understand its weight. Her hand shook as she scrolled through the documents. Hidden ownership, secret investments. He'd moved his entire business under her identity long before his death. He'd protected her, prepared her. A faint sound made her look up, footsteps above. Slow, deliberate, too heavy to be wind. She froze, listening. The barn creaked once, then silence. Maya gathered the documents quickly into her bag and turned off the flashlight. Darkness swallowed her, thick and absolute. Whoever was upstairs didn't call out, didn't move again. She waited, heart hammering, until finally, the sound of a door closing, faint and distant. When she climbed back to the surface, sunlight slanted through the open doorway. The world looked unchanged, but she wasn't. Maya brushed the dirt from her hands, clutching the bag tight against her chest. "They laughed because they thought I got nothing," she whispered. A small smile crossed her face. "But Dad, you gave me everything." She turned toward the farmhouse on the hill, and for the first time, she was ready to fight for it. The sunlight felt heavier that morning, thick with truth waiting to be told. Maya sat at her kitchen table, papers spread across the wood like a map of war. Every deed, every sealed document, every secret her father had buried beneath that barn now lay open before her. The ink glimmered faintly under the light, proof that the life she'd been denied had always been hers. Her phone buzzed again. Meeting with the state lawyers, 10 a.m. Don't embarrass yourself. Her stepmother's name glared at the top of the message. Maya smiled faintly. Don't worry, she murmured. I'm bringing the truth with me. By 10 sharp, she walked into the law office. Calm, poised, and carrying her father's leather folder. The same men who had mocked her during the will reading looked up from their expensive chairs. Their smirks already rehearsed. The lawyer, the same one who had trembled through her father's testament, cleared his throat. Miss Robinson, I'm told you filed a request for review of property division. Do you have any basis for that? Maya placed the folder on the table, unlatched it, and slid out the documents one by one. Deeds, ownership transfers, bank statements, and notarized certificates bearing her father's seal. Her voice stayed steady. Yes, everything in this folder. You'll want to read the signatures carefully. Her stepmother's smile faltered. This again, she said, feigning amusement. Sweetheart, your father didn't trust lawyers with fantasy papers. Maya leaned forward, her eyes locked on the woman's. No, he just didn't trust you. A murmur rippled through the room. The lawyer picked up one document, frowned, then another. These are original notarizations, he muttered. All filed under the name. He looked up sharply. Maya Robinson. The eldest brother slammed his palm against the table. That's impossible. The company's ours. It was, Maya said softly, until Dad moved everything into a private trust 8 years ago. A trust with my name on it. The barn was never a punishment. It was a vault. Her stepmother's mask cracked, voice trembling for the first time. He would never. He did. Maya interrupted, pulling one last document from her folder. The flash drive's printed content. A letter from her father, addressed to all of them. His words filled the silence as the lawyer read aloud. To my family. Some inherit comfort, others inherit purpose. The barn holds the truth of both. Maya, you were always meant to rebuild, not consume. Protect what matters. No one spoke for a long time. Then the younger brother pushed back his chair. So what now? He spat. You take everything and pretend you belong? Maya stood, collecting her folder. No, she said. I don't pretend. I prove. The room held its breath. Even the air conditioner seemed to stop humming. Maya turned toward the door, her father's voice echoing in her heart. Roots, not walls. That was the legacy. And now she would live it. The drive back to the farmhouse felt different that day. Not because of the winding roads or the golden fields rolling by, but because Maya finally carried truth in her hands, not doubt. Her father's folder sat on the seat beside her, the same cracked leather he used for invoices and farm blueprints. But inside it now lay something far more valuable, proof that she belonged. When she parked near the barn, sunlight was slanting through the old oaks. The same place that had once smelled like grief and dust now felt alive, charged with purpose. She stood by the doorway, hand brushing the frame, whispering, You really hid it all here, didn't you, Dad? The wind answered with a soft rustle through the rafters, as if the barn itself was breathing again. Inside, she began to clean with renewed purpose. The broom scraped, hay scattered, dust swirled through beams of light. But this time, every motion felt like reclaiming a piece of herself. Her father had built this barn not as punishment, but as protection. Every nail, every floorboard had carried his quiet defiance against greed. She found his old workbench still cluttered with bolts and tools. There, nailed above the shelf, was a rusted horseshoe. She almost smiled. It used to hang above the main door, a family charm for luck. Beneath it, she found something else. A small wooden box carved with initials R+M, Richard and Maya. Inside lay a brass compass, its needle still spinning faithfully north. Her breath hitched. The lid carried an engraving. Keep building. Even when they laugh. Maya sat on the stool, fingers tracing the words. Her father had known exactly what they would do. The humiliation, the dismissal, the smirks when she received just a barn. But he also knew she would never give up once she saw purpose in something broken. By evening, the sound of gravel crunched outside. She peeked through the dusty window. Her stepbrother's car, silver, expensive, rolled up the hill. He didn't knock. He just leaned on the fence post, arms folded. "Still playing farmer?" He sneered. "You know you can't hold that place forever. Lawyers are already talking about challenging whatever stunt you pulled." Maya stepped outside, sunlight glowing behind her, dust still on her palms. "You can't challenge what's already written in his hand," she said evenly. "He trusted me because I cared about what he built, not what he owned." He laughed, shaking his head. "You really think a little barn makes you equal to us?" Maya didn't flinch. "No," she said. "It makes me free." For a moment neither spoke. Then he muttered something about court dates and got back into his car. The tires sprayed dirt as he sped away. She watched until the road turned quiet again. The barn behind her glowed in the dying sun. Golden, defiant, alive. She whispered to herself, "You taught me well, Dad. Time to show them what your daughter can build." As dusk deepened, Maya pulled open the barn doors once more. This time she wasn't cleaning for memory. She was preparing for war. The next morning broke soft and gold, dew sparkling like glass across the fields. Maya stood outside the barn, sleeves rolled up, her father's old cap pulled low over her curls. For the first time since the funeral, she didn't feel like an intruder on this land. She felt like its keeper. The barn loomed ahead, tired but waiting. The boards were warped, the roof sagged, yet sunlight still found its way through every crack like hope sneaking in. Maya pressed her palm against the wood. "You carried his secrets," she whispered. "Now you'll carry our future." She started small. A hammer, nails, fresh timber from the lumber yard. The rhythmic clang echoed across the valley, a sound that once defined her father's days. Every hit stirred a memory, his laugh, his calloused hands, the smell of sawdust and sweat. By noon, she'd repaired half the roof. Her shirt clung with effort, her hands blistered raw. But with each ache came a strange peace, as if she was rebuilding not just a structure, but a bond time had tried to bury. When she paused to rest, she noticed something new, neighbors watching from the road. Old Mr. Jenkins from the mill tipped his hat. "Didn't think anyone bring that barn back," he called. Maya smiled. Guess it just needed someone who remembered it mattered. By late afternoon, word had spread. A few townsfolk stopped by. One brought sandwiches, another a bucket of nails. "Your daddy helped half this town," an older woman said softly. "Looks like it's our turn." Maya blinked hard, her throat tightening. For years, she thought her father's legacy ended with a will. But standing there, surrounded by strangers turned helpers, she realized this was his real inheritance. Community, kindness, quiet strength. As the sun sank, she hung the brass horseshoe above the main door once more. The metal caught the last light gleaming like a promise. "You'd like this, Dad," she whispered. "You'd laugh at how much I sound like you now." Then her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Enjoy playing builder while you can. The board's filing to freeze assets. You'll lose everything soon." Maya's smile faded. She looked back at the barn, at the lights she'd hung, the repaired beams, the symbol of her father's faith, and felt a fire rise in her chest. "They're coming again," she murmured, voice steady now. "But this time I'm not cleaning up their mess. I'm standing my ground." The wind picked up, rattling the tin roof. The night fell heavy, but the barn glowed softly from within, a beacon in the dark. She sat by the open doorway, wiping her hands clean, her eyes fierce. "They think I'm just fixing walls," she said quietly. Then she smiled, tired but fearless. "But I'm rebuilding a kingdom." The night was long, and the storm outside echoed the one inside Maya's chest. Lightning split the sky over the valley, casting the barn in flashes of silver and shadow. She sat on the workbench, the phone still glowing with the threat. "You'll lose everything soon." For a moment, fear tried to crawl back in. But she remembered her father's voice, calm and certain. "When people come for what's yours, don't fight like they do. Think like I taught you." She took a deep breath, stood, and pulled the folder from her satchel. Her father's documents, the trust papers, the ownership transfer, she'd read them a dozen times. But tonight, she looked again. Every margin, every line, every note. That's when she saw it. A faint, handwritten scrawl along the bottom of one page, nearly faded with time. "If they challenge it, use File 7. The truth belongs to the builder. Her heart skipped. File 7. It wasn't in the folder. It wasn't in the hidden room she'd found. Then it hit her. Her father's workshop ledger. The one he used to log repairs, lumber orders, and barn expenses. She had stacked it on a shelf earlier that day. She sprinted across the barn, pulled it down, and flipped through the pages. At the very back, taped beneath the cover, was an envelope marked F7. Inside were photographs, notarized letters, and a signed agreement between her father and a major investor, documents showing that her father had transferred all operating shares to his daughter, Maya, 5 years before his death, in anticipation of family conflict. It wasn't just protection. It was strategy. A tear rolled down her cheek, part grief, part awe. "You planned everything," she whispered. "You always did." By morning, she was ready. The storm had cleared, the air smelled sharp and new. She dressed simply. Jeans, a white shirt, and her father's leather jacket. At the courthouse, the hall buzzed with low voices. Her stepmother and brothers were already there with their lawyers, polished and smug. "This should be quick," one of them murmured as she entered. But Maya didn't sit. She walked straight to the front, handed the clerk a sealed file, and said, "Add this to the record. Supplemental evidence." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Miss Robinson?" "Yes, Your Honor," she replied steadily. "My father left more than a will. He left truth." Her stepmother's lawyer scoffed until the judge began reading. The silence grew thick. Paragraph by paragraph, the evidence unfolded. Ownership documents, legal filings, the investor's signature, everything binding and dated years before. When the final page hit the bench, the judge looked up. "It seems Mr. Robinson anticipated this dispute," he said, "and made sure his daughter was protected. The claim against her is dismissed. Permanently." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Maya's stepmother went pale. Her brothers looked at each other, lost. Maya closed her eyes, exhaled, and smiled softly. "The truth belongs to the builder," she murmured. Outside, sunlight poured across the courthouse steps. She turned her face toward it, breathing deep. She wasn't just her father's heir. She was his legacy. And tomorrow, she'd return to the barn, not to clean or to fight, but to build. The night was long, and the storm outside echoed the one inside Maya's chest. Lightning split the sky over the valley, casting the barn in flashes of silver and shadow. She sat on the workbench, the phone still glowing with the threat. "You'll lose everything soon." For a moment, fear tried to crawl back in. But she remembered her father's voice, calm and certain. "When people come for what's yours, don't fight like they do. Think like I taught you." She took a deep breath, stood, and pulled the folder from her satchel. Her father's documents, the trust papers, the ownership transfer, she'd read them a dozen times. But tonight, she looked again. Every margin, every line, every note. That's when she saw it. A faint, handwritten scrawl along the bottom of one page, nearly faded with time. "If they challenge it, use File 7. The truth belongs to the builder." Her heart skipped. File 7. It wasn't in the folder. It wasn't in the hidden room she'd found. Then it hit her. Her father's workshop ledger. The one he used to log repairs, lumber orders, and barn expenses. She had stacked it on a shelf earlier that day. She sprinted across the barn, pulled it down, and flipped through the pages. At the very back, taped beneath the cover, was an envelope marked F7. Inside were photographs, notarized letters, and a signed agreement between her father and a major investor, documents showing that her father had transferred all operating shares to his daughter, Maya, 5 years before his death, in anticipation of family conflict. It wasn't just protection. It was strategy. A tear rolled down her cheek, part grief, part awe. "You planned everything," she whispered. "You always did." By morning, she was ready. The storm had cleared, the air smelled sharp and new. She dressed simply. Jeans, a white shirt, and her father's leather jacket. At the courthouse, the hall buzzed with low voices. Her stepmother and brothers were already there with their lawyers, polished and smug. "This should be quick," one of them murmured as she entered. But Maya didn't sit. She walked straight to the front, handed the clerk a sealed file, and said, "Add this to the record. Supplemental evidence." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Miss Robinson?" "Yes, Your Honor," she replied steadily. My father left more than a will. He left truth, her stepmother's lawyer scoffed, until the judge began reading. The silence grew thick. Paragraph by paragraph, the evidence unfolded. Ownership documents, legal filings, the investor's signature, everything binding and dated years before. When the final page hit the bench, the judge looked up. "It seems Mr. Robinson anticipated this dispute," he said, "and made sure his daughter was protected. The claim against her is dismissed. Permanently." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Maya's stepmother went pale. Her brothers looked at each other, lost. Maya closed her eyes, exhaled, and smiled softly. "The truth belongs to the builder," she murmured. Outside, sunlight poured across the courthouse steps. She turned her face toward it, breathing deep. She wasn't just her father's heir. She was his legacy. And tomorrow, she'd return to the barn, not to clean or to fight, but to build. If Maya's story moved you, remember this: we don't inherit walls or roofs. We inherit courage, love, and purpose. Greed fades, but goodness stays. Share this story if you believe legacy isn't what you leave behind. It's who you raise, who you teach, and who you love. Don't forget to like, comment Legacy Lives, and subscribe for more powerful stories that remind us, even in broken places, something beautiful can still be built.